Today we have the second of Mark's three prediction, misunderstanding, clarification passages explaining what it means to die with Jesus. I'm afraid we'll have to wait until the 29th Sunday of the year to learn Jesus' third way. Though the disciples' misunderstanding is implicit in this narrative, we can easily reconstruct it from Jesus' clarification. Conveniently ignoring his command to die, his followers have been arguing over who's the group's head honcho. He begins by confronting them head on. Anyone who wishes to be first shall be the last of all and the servant of all. Then he gives them an audiovisual, a child. Putting his arms around the child, he said, "Whoever receives one child such as this in my name receives me. And whoever receives me receives not me, but the one who sent me." Many confuse this particular child passage with the one in which Jesus commands us to become like little children. Here, condemning church cry rooms, he says we're to accept little children, not imitate them. Those in the community, like children, who can give us practically nothing, are the people we must value the highest. Given our culture, Jesus would probably go into one of our nursing homes, put his arms around an Alzheimer's resident, and say, "Whoever receives." The main problem many people found in the historical Jesus was his aggravating habit of turning everything upside down. Because he's convinced God is present, working effectively in everyone's life, then our everyday life is no longer business as usual. Life hasn't changed, but the way we approach and live it has. The author of Wisdom encountered similar opposition centuries before Jesus' birth. The author ran into a parallel problem in presenting the Just One as a person everyone should imitate. There's simply too high a price to pay. Biblically just persons develop proper relationships with God and those around them. They are more concerned with building up the advantage of others rather than in selfishly looking for their own advantage. In almost every culture, they're obstinate because they set themselves against our doings. Instead of transforming the way we live, it's far easier to just get rid of the just person in our midst. Dead people usually don't give us a guilt trip. That's where James comes in. Obviously, the community for which he writes has little in common with the ideal, loving communities we find in the first chapter of the Acts of the Apostles. Among other vices, the author's forced to confront jealousy and selfish ambition in some of the individuals reading his letter. Instead of being guided by the risen Jesus, they're simply giving themselves over to the passions that make war within their members. Even if they pray, they have no idea for what to pray. Instead of being open to others, they're trapped in their own selves. The Gospel Jesus has a community vision which he expects his followers to share. An unstratified society in which everyone is equal. No honorary titles, no one more important than anyone else. It's evident from the structure of our church that we Catholics haven't bought into Jesus' vision. Years ago, it was fashionable to compare ourselves to General Motors or AT&T, efficient, task-oriented, hierarchical structure. Some of this formalism changed at Vatican II, but it constantly creeps back in. A seminary classmate from Detroit mentioned that shortly after ordination, he attended a clergy conference in which Cardinal Dearden, presuming the council had gotten rid of Monsignors, asked for suggestions on how to reward priests who had done extraordinary work during their ministry. Too bad that equalizing frame of mind didn't last, in Detroit or in Baltimore. From today's gospel, it's clear it mirrored Jesus' mentality on dying.